have to talk about, right? To talk about sexual violence is a bold act, a brave act. To talk about sexual violence in the United States military is even bolder. Our keynote speaker this evening is a nationally recognized subject matter expert in sexual assault. She actually hired MESA's current director, Janine, in 1995, where they then proceeded to work together on the Ending Violence Against Women project, traveling to every nook and cranny in Colorado to talk about sexual violence. Anne is a powerhouse of knowledge, compassion, and true warrior grit. Doing work in sexual violence for over 30 years, she is a municipal court judge in Lakewood, Colorado, a national and international keynote speaker at conferences on violence against women, and an expert in the development of curriculum for sexual assault investigations and prosecutions. Please welcome Anne Munch.
Thank you so much. It is an honor to be here. Janine, thank you for inviting me to come participate again in MESA's annual event, which is just such a beautiful thing. It's also bold and brave, but it's really a beautiful thing. You know, I love the theme that you choose: bold, brave, and beautiful. Bold was a young 8-year-old girl named Louisa when I was at the Denver District Attorney's Office, who told an adult what happened to her. Brave was what she embodied when she went into a courtroom with me, and her whole family was inside that courtroom on the defendant's side of the court. And the victim advocate was on our side of the court. And that little girl went and sat down and looked either at me or at that advocate, and she told the truth about what happened to her. And I didn't even have the benefit of FIBL, which, believe me, I wish I would have. Or she didn't have the benefit. Beautiful to the extent that we get beauty in a criminal justice system was the result, which allowed her to begin sleeping through the night in safety. Bold was a young woman who reported a non-stranger sexual assault to the Denver Police Department and had the ability, even under circumstances that are tricky, to tell the police department. Brave was her holding up under a cross-examination, as so many survivors have to do, that put her on the hot seat for having gone on a date with this man and had alcohol with him. And by the way, what were you wearing? And we didn't get the results in the criminal justice system that we wanted from that case. But beautiful was the moment that after the not guilty verdict came in, and she was not in the courtroom, and the judge, the Denver District Court judge, looked at me and said, "Miss Munch," he said, "listen, are you getting ready to call the victim?" And I said, "Yes, Your Honor, that's what I need to do next." And he said, "Do me a favor." He said, "Tell her I believed her." And I said, "I assure you that I will give her that message." So to have to deliver the news of a not guilty verdict to a survivor of sexual assault is one of the most difficult things for a prosecutor with a heart to do. But I was able to tell her, you know what, the one person that sat through every motions hearing, the entire jury selection, every minute of the trial, ruled on every motion, has a message for you. And he wants you to know that he believed you. And that was a beautiful moment. And what we learned doing this work, of course, is that beauty, it's a paradoxical thing. We step into the trauma of this crime. We step into the fallout in people's lives. And people ask, why do you do that? All the volunteers and all of the directors and all of the people in this room that have done this work. You go to a cocktail party, you tell somebody what you do for a living, and their first question is, really? Okay. Why do you do that? And it is because there is a kind of beauty and a kind of satisfaction that can only come from being willing to go into the depths of something horrible with other people. And you do that day in and day out. And that was a beautiful moment, you know, that judge could provide to that survivor. Bold were the United States Air Force Academy cadets that called reporters and said, you know what? What's going on here is not okay. We're not being believed. In fact, we're being punished. And those reporters took that report, not that it had been the first one, but they took that report and a momentum grew and grew and grew. And it was a tipping point for sexual assault. It started in the Air Force, but for the entire US military. Bold were those cadets who, knowing they were very likely foregoing and giving up their educational opportunity and probably the long military career that could have followed, did the right thing anyway. Brave were all of the people that stood in that void that created and said, here we go. Brave was Claudia Bailiff giving up her posh and comfortable position as a Boulder feminist attorney and taking a job in the bowels of the Pentagon as the first sexual assault response program chief of the Air Force's program, and bringing boldly actual information, research, experts from all across the country to the United States Air Force. And it spread, and it spread, and it spread. Beautiful is the fact that the Uniform Code of Military Justice is different today than it was back then. And there are protections for victims. The victims have their own legal counsel assigned to them. Every survivor of sexual violence who winds up in the system has their own lawyer to help them and represent them, which is a beautiful thing. Does the fight go on? Yes. Is it ugly at times? Is it a roller coaster of up and down? Yes. But we stay in there because resilience demands it, justice demands it, and because we do see progress. Bold was Christine Blasey Ford deciding that she needed to tell the truth about something that was of utmost importance to her. Brave was the day that she spent in front of the United States Senate answering questions under really difficult circumstances. And Janine and I were among 5 experts that were asked to go provide education to the US Senate to help them understand trauma, to help them understand and frame what they were hearing from Dr. Ford, so that we can begin to try to pull these myths down one at a time, which is what we do in this work. Beautiful was in the rooms of that Senate building, watching the high school girls that went to her high school come to those hearings, wear sweatshirts from the high school where Christine Blasey Ford and they now attended in support of her. And the other beautiful moment, I'll tell you, because we have to focus on the beauty. You know, that was a hard day professionally, I will just tell you, as was the next day. And Janine and I were flying out of Washington, D.C. back to Colorado, kind of dragging a little bit. And an Uber driver picked us up. I don't know if you remember this. This man picked us up, and he was like, wow, you guys look like you've been rode hard and put up wet. Like, what's wrong? We're like, well, you know, we came to try to do this, and it was kind of hard, and yesterday was really stressful to watch all of that. And he said, oh my God, he said, I have 4 daughters, and you are the most incredible kinds of people on the planet, and I'm so proud of you. Can I have a picture taken with you? So when we got to the airport, he jumped down and he very proudly had a picture of me and Janine and him with us that he was sending to his 4 daughters that he was raising to understand the truth about sexual violence in this world. And that was a beautiful moment. And it was one of the lows of my career. And I remember processing like we have to, and one of my best friends said, Annie, he said, the problem is still the problem, and the truth is still the truth. And so with that and with that knowledge, here we are, we continue to do this work. People longer than I have been doing this work are in this room. And the last example that I'll give you is Bold was running the Ending Violence Against Women project, where we did training in every single nook and cranny of Colorado. And a job came up in Leadville, Colorado, and there had been an issue because one of the police officers, I think, was alleged to have had perhaps some sexual misconduct with a victim advocate. That was kind of in the background of this very tense training. So Bold was our saying yes to that. Brave were Claudia and Janine, who I sent. And they walked into the training, and one of the police officers took his name tag and he put it right on his crotch. And he said, well, I figured that's why we're here. So getting through that training was not an easy thing. Beautiful was the fact that I was otherwise occupied and I didn't have to do it myself. This is an incredible ride that all of us are on behalf of survivors of sexual violence. We stand on the shoulders of amazing people, all of us do, and we only hope someday to inspire people to stand on ours. MESA needs support. There's a lot going on in our world that is tough, and that is true. And this is a problem that is the most persistent I've ever seen in my life. I've been working on it since I was a baby DA in the Denver DA's office in 1986. And Bruce, I'll leave you with this. Bruce Coburn has a line in one of his songs, and that line says, we're gonna kick at the darkness until it bleeds daylight. And I have always loved that line because what I know is that many of you in the trenches, that's kind of how it feels sometimes. But you are the reason that courageous survivors can pick up that phone. It's on the rest of us to make sure that you have what you need to do your jobs. So thank you for the invitation. Thanks, you.